Is there something you can say as a theme throughout all the stories, other than determination, other than persistence, for a new trader that they should try to pull from this? Chapter 11, losing it all, trading options, fighting leukemia,
Right.
and becoming a profitable funded scalper. That is a chapter title right there, bro. Like that
There's a
puts
lot in
everybody
there
to
for
shame.
sure.
A
Yeah.
lot in there for sure. You don't just survive and keep doing the same thing. You got to talk to
Right.
new people, take in new information, and try to grow all the time. The prop traders turned fund managers. Like, how does a guy go from trading prop to managing a fund? Does that usually happen because people want to give them money because they're successful? Or does it happen because they go out and search for the money because they want to scale? The chapter after me, chapter 13, from single mother with a few $100s of capital to trading 8 million. Elise, is that how you say her name?
Yeah.
Elise?
At least. Yeah.
Bro, that story, that's crazy. I think that hit home for a lot of people. And when they read
Yeah.
that, they're going to be like, okay, this is real. Like, you can really do this. So you could be anybody and do it, but who wants it bad enough? She wanted it. That's all that is. What's up, traders? Welcome back to the podcast. Today, I'm sitting down with Etienne Crete to discuss his new book, Prop Trading Secrets. I'm actually featured in the book, which is kind of crazy. Uh, I'm honored to be in the book, and I'm excited to give you guys a little bit of like the behind the scenes about the book. Hopefully, hearing Etienne talk about the book will make you guys grab it. We'll put a link for that in the description. You can get it off Amazon, get it off their website. We'll make sure that's linked below. But a big thank you to him and Kathy for featuring me in the book. A big thank you to our sponsors, of course, for making this episode happen. And now enjoy my conversation with the man himself, Mr. Etienne Crete. This episode wouldn't be possible without Top One Trader. They have a brand new instant funding model that I think everyone needs to try. There's 5 different accounts you can choose from. You can hold trades over the weekend, and there's a 90-10 profit split. So use my link in the description, use the code ASFX to save on your next instant funded challenge. And as always, thank you to Top One for being a sponsor of the podcast. Now let's get into the episode. Real quick, before we go any further with today's podcast, I want to thank our second sponsor, Edgeful. Edgeful is the only tool you need to reach your trading goals. This is the one-stop shop. If you're trading stocks, futures, or crypto, you can go into Edgeful and gather all the information you need to refine your edge. Whether it's the report on how often the gap fills or the report on how often we make a new high of day in Power Hour, all of those answers are given to you and updated daily in Edgeful. So use the link down below, check out Edgeful. This could be a tool that changes 2025 for you. So I'm being serious. This is definitely worth your time. And if you want to see us use it, come check out ASFX TV. But I got an Edgeful link in the description. Definitely go check that out. And of course, thank you to them for being a sponsor. Now let's get back to the video. What's up, traders? Welcome back to the podcast. We got a special episode today. Etienne Crete is here. Etienne, this is our second podcast together. He had me on his show about a year or so ago, and I've been honored to be featured in the new book, Prop Trading Secrets. So I want to talk to you about a few of the people mentioned in the book, Etienne. I want to hear about this process, and hopefully some of our listeners are going to go grab this book. First question for you. How did you link up with Kathy for this book? Because Kathy's super legendary, bro. So the two of you coming together is amazing. How did that happen?
I was a big surprise. Actually, Kathy reached out to me first. I had no idea she was doing that book. And she reached out to me and asked if I want to. She asked if I had any suggestions of traders to feature in the book. I gave her some names, and then she said, "Oh, do you want to write it with me?" And then I said, "Oh yeah, sure. I'll do it. Sounds good." And it's kind of how it started. So it was a
Love
bit
that.
of unexpected thing, but it was fun. Yeah.
And as the writing progressed, who collaborated in what way? Like, did you bring the traders to her and then you went and did the interviews and then you kind of circled back on it of what you would feature? Or did she do some interviews and you did some interviews? Like, did you divide it?
Yeah, we divided it. We both have a list of traders we want to have in the book, and we kind of went ahead and interviewed them and then put them together and yeah, have a kind of a list of 12 traders total. So
Okay. So I have somebody in the book that I think everyone is going to say is their favorite interview. I
uh,
can't ask you who's your favorite because I don't want you to pick a favorite, but who do you think out of all these people, who do you think is like the most interesting or unique story? Does one stand out to you?
I mean, there's a lot of them. Like stories, like, it's cool because you get to hear stories of different traders of like how they went through struggles, because they got successful and stuff. I remember Jean-François Boucher is a guy who went through a lot of stuff before he was successful. So he went through a whole divorce. Actually started to make money trading at first with like investing in companies.
Yep.
Then he had to kind of go into options, try to make money faster, lost it all that way. And he eventually kind of got divorced, lost all his money, kind of gambling a little bit, and then he went back to it and then got successful after that. So kind of a wild story there, but it's definitely a good one.
I love the title of that. That's chapter 11, losing it all, trading options, fighting leukemia,
Right.
and becoming a profitable funded scalper. That is a chapter title right there, bro. Like that
There's a
puts
lot in
everybody
there
to
for
shame.
sure.
A
Yeah.
lot in there for sure. What about Nick Sayek? Nick and I are friends. Nick's actually coming on the podcast next week. His story is incredible too, isn't it?
Yeah. Also a good story. Definitely. Yeah. Definitely.
To me, I love his story comparing it to chapter 11 as well with Jean Francois. How do you say that? Jean Francois?
Jean-François.
Francis?
Yeah.
Jean Francois? Like, just such a different background in both of them,
Yeah.
but both individually successful in a totally unique path. I think, if I could say, the book highlights how many different paths there are to success, right? There is no one way. If you continue to push, you can achieve success in what that looks like for you. What do you think when you look at this, like, as a new trader? Is there something you can say as a theme throughout all the stories, other than determination, other than persistence, for a new trader that they should try to pull from this?
I mean, there's so many good advice in this, but definitely like, not giving up is a big thing. So you definitely mentioned that. The other thing is kind of trying to figure out your own style too. Like people are always trying to like copy the guy on YouTube who's like having a specific style. They want to match that thing and like do the thing exactly on their own. I think like developing your own style, your own methods, your own kind of ways to look at the market is also very powerful. And whether
Yeah,
you're a beginner or more experienced, you got to kind of figure out what works for you and develop your own specific styles of doing things.
absolutely. When you look back on writing this book and doing the interviews, what was the hardest part of doing it?
Uh, I mean, definitely kind of condensing the story. So some of these interviews lasted like 2, 3 hours sometimes. Then we kind of bring this all down to one chapter, and that means you have to condense a lot of stuff. Most of it is still like very, very much in there in some way. So the stories are still there, still intact. The advice they give are still there, like still intact, the same. We have to bring it down to like a specific chapter. That's a lot of work, definitely.
Definitely a lot of work. Yeah, that definitely makes sense. When you look at this as a whole, does it make you want to do a part two? Because I'm sure there were more traders on this list that you just didn't get to, right? So is there going to be a
Yeah.
follow-up?
Possibly. I mean, it's very hard to pick it to only 12 traders. Like I know so many traders from the podcast I've had, from also like traders for sure. So it's very hard to only pick 12 out of those. Like there's a lot more successful traders out there than just this. So yeah, it might be a follow-up in the future. We'll see how it does. The first
Dude,
one.
and especially from your podcast, I give you so much
Right.
credit for that. You have put me on to so many people that I never would have known about. You have done a good job through your podcast and your career of finding those real traders, not the Lambo boys, but like the real traders. And I think also being in Asia a lot, you're open to a market of people that us in the States don't get to talk to or get to see. There's a lot of successful traders in Asia and in Europe. And I know you spend a lot of time in both places. I was telling my
Yeah.
father-in-law this morning, he's like, "Why are you up so early?" I'm like, "I'm doing a podcast this morning with a guy that put me in his book." And he's like, "Oh, what does he do?" I was like, "He trades, but he travels everywhere." He's like, "Can you trade and travel?" I'm like, "Yeah, look at his Instagram. He's all over the place." So I've been showing him your stuff. Speaking of that,
That's
sidebar for
cool.
a second, how's your trading been this year? How was 2024? I saw you had a really successful end of the year.
Yeah, it was really good. I moved to daily charts only this past year, so now it's like the only thing I do. It's been
Yep.
a very good success for that. So it's like giving me more time to do things also on the side, but it's also like having some really good results overall. So it's been fun.
That, that's awesome. Um, how did this book change your perspective on full-time trading?
Uh, I mean, it's cool because you see people who get to full-time trading in so many different ways. Like some people are going for prop firms and they do it well that way. Some people are kind of building their own private funds, which is a lot of work. By the way, you see this in the book for sure. But also like it's showing that there's a way for people to do it like in many different ways. So you can have your own account. You can be scalping also. You can be like trading higher time frames. A lot of people are kind of doing with different methods, which is kind of cool to see.
Definitely.
And most of them don't trade all day. Some do trade a couple hours a day, but most people don't trade all day. They just trade like an hour a day, 2 hours a day, and they're pretty much done with it after that. So it's kind of cool to see you can do it as a full time job, but without spending full time hours on it all the time.
Absolutely. I feel like one thing that maybe stands out is a lot of these guys, I don't want to say a lot, but majority of them do not do automated trading. A lot of them were more manual trading, discretionary. Is that correct?
Yeah, we've got one who does automated trading, but that's
Why
about
do
it.
you think that is, bro? Like, why do you think more people are still not getting on the auto? Do you think it's growing now? It just wasn't popular back in the day. Why do you think that is?
What's up, guys? Before we keep going, a quick sponsorship shout out to TradeZella. They've been a sponsor for months now, and instead of just offering one discount code on your monthly membership, they've decided to kick the door down and offer you a 20% discount if you sign up for the year. So use the link down in the description. The code is ASFX20. That's going to save you 20% on your yearly membership, and that's going to give you everything you need so you can actually start making money this year. If you want 2024 into 2025 to be your most profitable year ever, you're going to have to track your trades. You're going to have to track your good ones and your bad ones, and you're going to want to learn from those bad ones by studying the data behind them. What days are you making the most money? What times of day are you making the most money? What assets are you trading best on? What are you doing with your winners? Are you holding them long enough? What about your losers? All of that is answered for you with TradeZella. So use the link and the codes down in the description. Thank you to TradeZella. Appreciate y'all. Love you, Umar. Now let's get back to the episode.
I think we could probably have picked traders who trade full time based on automated systems only. I think that will be possible to find. I just think it's maybe the case of now. It's like people who trade full time. They also have a lot of time. They don't want to do like robots or anything. And a lot of these guys they just love trading. They don't want to be like sitting back at the screen and like doing nothing about trading. They want to be in the market, kind of getting in and out of trades, kind of being aware of what's happening in the market. I guess they love it and they want to do it.
Love that. It's so true. It's so true. Because like I could understand like looking at it from the outside thinking, yeah, of course I'd want to automate everything. But if you've already, especially already made money as a manual trader, it's going to, like in some of these older guys, it's going to be hard to win them over to come to the automated. They're going to be skeptical. They're going to be, questioning it. They want to do it themselves. Like when you get old, you get stuck in your ways, that kind of thing. Right.
Yeah. All the traders will tell you probably that they don't feel like they have the same kind of trades when they trade within Alco. Like they have different trades. They kind of get up when they want to all the time. And that can be frustrating for some people. So some people do it. They kind of accept the fact that it won't be perfect. It'll be a little bit different. But some people just want to have that touch that they have manually, and they kind of just do it with the algo.
Yeah. With you having spoken to so many successful traders who struggled for years, sometimes before becoming successful, especially, what now is your advice for new traders? When you meet somebody on the street and they're like, oh, you do trading. I've been trying to trade for a year and I'm struggling. What do you always tell them? Like, what's your go-to advice? I'm curious.
I'd say look at the big picture. Like look at these guys who maybe like they traded for 5 years, they lost it all or something, they went back on track, they did it right. Big picture is not like you're going to struggle with trading for the long term. You're probably going to struggle for a few years, but then you're going to turn things around eventually, either by meeting the right person that kind of pushes you forward, or just by changing your habits, changing your methods or your view of the market. If you look at the big picture, like how it's going to turn out in 5, 10 years from now, things will be really different if you stick to it.
Survive. Just survive. Don't blow yourself out. Don't get frustrated and hate the markets. You're saying if you just stay in the game long enough, you're going to figure it out. But you also made a really good point in there too. You don't just survive and keep doing the same thing. You got to talk to
Right.
new people, take in new information, and try to grow all the time, which is why, I respect your business so much because you've done that. You consistently are talking to new people about manual trading, automated trading, scalping, funded trading. You're always looking for new information. And I take that from you as well, because I think that's what's helped me grow is like having new guests on the podcast. I learn from them. And then it's like,
Oh
cool,
yeah,
that could be something that makes me more money. It's open-mindedness too is another one, right? That all these
definitely.
guys
Yeah.
definitely. Yeah. Yeah. So that's good. So now looking at the way you sectioned the book, I'm going to look at the contents here. The prop trading champions, Rob Hoffman, David, and John. Those guys to me are like the big dogs in the group. The prop traders turned fund managers. How does that transition happen? Like, how does a guy go from trading prop to managing a fund? Does that usually happen because people want to give them money because they're successful? Or does it happen because they go out and search for the money because they want to scale?
It's funny. A lot of people didn't want to scale. They kind of had the support needed onto them. Then they kind of took it, and then they're happy with it. But most of them will say they if they did like earlier, they wouldn't have been successful. They kind of had to grow and mature as traders, and then they can kind of manage funds from the people. Some of them have like a business partner that kind of raises capital. They do the trading on their own, and that's kind of how they run it. So it's a way to get bigger capital, also like maybe a bigger share of profits, also at the same time. When
Yeah.
you manage a few millions, like a lot different from managing like $300,000 or something of the sort. So it's kind of the next logical step. If you can manage a platform well, then you can go into having your own private fund eventually, I feel.
Studying these guys, do you think that the path of least resistance for most traders is going to be trading prop and then trying to scale that way? Or are you
Oh,
thinking
definitely. Yeah.
now? Yeah, yeah, you're probably right.
Definitely platform first. Either platform first and then going to a private fund, or kind of using platform to build your own capital.
Yeah, because the downside risk is so much smaller. How many people
Yeah.
do you know put 10 grand in an account and blew the whole thing? Where if
Right.
they would have just traded prop, they would have survived a little bit longer, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah, it's such an interesting book. I mean, and I always have this saying, not to, my listeners will say, oh, he said this before, but I always say traders are all headed in the same direction, but they're on a different path. And that's what I got out of reading the other chapters of the book.
Yeah.
Some of these guys, like they started out very bumpy and then it got very smooth. Other guys started out really great, hit a drawdown, and had to dig their way out of it. So it's very unique to every person. And I think that's why your advice of sticking with it, perseverance, is the essence of it. So when someone wants to get into automated trading, what do you tell them? If they're like, hey man, I want to automate everything, what's the first thing you tell them to do?
It's hard to put your rules as like very systematic rules that can be automated, because that's the tough thing for most people is like trying to find the rules that they can just automate directly. A lot of times
Yeah,
we have like these things we look at the market that are not like they're kind of very systematic, but also like a bit discretionary. So it's kind of hard to automate it directly. So
sure.
being able to kind of have your rules down, if you already use the programming, it's kind of easy. You figure out like what a code looks like and then how your rules have to look like to be like a code. That makes sense. But otherwise, you can go with these. They have a lot of these platforms now where you can like build things without coding, and that's kind of a good way to start. So I would definitely go that way.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you think that automated trading is a good first way into trading? Or do you think like it's best to learn manual trading first, learn the chart analysis yourself first, learn it all that, and then build the automation?
Unless you're a like very like let's say like an engineer or someone that's very into like programming and coding, I think it's definitely better to go into manual trading first.
Okay. Good to know. That makes sense. When you spoke with Kathy about writing this book, what was her biggest input? Like as far as getting this project complete, how did she help get it done the most? I'm curious.
I mean, she wrote a book in the past, which I was a big fan of in the past, which is called Millionaire Traders. So it's a book
Yep.
where she features other traders who are building these suicide accounts. It's like a kind of still a while back. But that book really inspired me in my own trading journey in the past. So it's kind of cool that she did it before. And like she definitely know how to drive this. She definitely know how to write a book, how to put it together, what lessons people would like from traders. It's kind of a good perspective to have for sure.
Definitely. And then I love at the end the 10-step checklist to kind of get everybody
Yeah,
going. I think that's awesome because how many times do you read a book or you buy a book on Amazon, you kind of skim it, and then it sits on the shelf, right? This
right.
actually has something when you get to the end of it, you fill this out, you have like a little bit of like a, okay, what do I do next? And that really is like an actionable takeaway from the book. So I love that too.
Yeah.
Love
And
that.
you also have a summary of all the tips from these interviews. And you see like there's many interviews, but not so many tips, maybe like 10 or 12 tips in total. Which kind
Yeah.
of it's like very, very common. Listening tips.
Very common. Yep, absolutely. I think the chapter after me, chapter 13, from single mother with a few $100s of capital to trading 8 million. Elise, is that how you say her name?
Yeah,
Elise?
at least, yeah.
Bro, that story, that's crazy. I think that hit home for a lot of people. And when they read that,
Yeah,
they're going to be
definitely.
like, okay, this is real. Like you can really do this. So you could be anybody and do it, but who wants it bad enough? She wanted it. That's all that is. Like that's just straight determination. That's all that
Yeah.
was, right?
It's a
Unbelievable.
story.
And then Vince funded prop trader with $1 million in profit. Vince's great story to finish it up at the end too. Like I said, Matthew Miller with the penny stock, the $309,000 in 85 days. I was like,
Uh,
dude, that is such a good story too, because
yeah.
that reminded me a little bit of like the Wolf of Wall Street type, Tim Sykes type penny
Uh,
stock kind of thing, right? And everybody loves a good penny stock story in our business,
definitely.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So that's why when I read this, I felt like, oh, and then the World of Warcraft guy, that one was crazy too. The
Oh yeah.
gamer,
I took yeah.
right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that was super impressive because it was like this guy's seen success in one other like way that's kind of different, but then he translated it into trading, and I was like, okay, I've seen
Right.
this before. That guy has unique characteristics as well that make him
Yeah.
successful too. So many good takeaways from this book. Do you have any other like noteworthy takeaways that didn't make it into the book that you could share with the listeners of this episode? Maybe like anything that you wanted to get it in there, but it didn't fit.
I think mostly people are like technical knowledge we got from these interviews that maybe doesn't fit for a book. Like a lot of how into some traders like build into positions when they trade like bigger capital, like what kind of techniques they have to really kind of put in large position in the market.
Yeah.
That stuff is like very technical, so we didn't really put it too much in the book. Although you can see some traces of it perhaps in the book with the chapter with Andres. But overall, it's still like some stuff that we might put in the future in a different book, but it's still like very technical and very detailed.
You know
Most
what would
people
be
won't have that,
cool?
that problem. So
No, for sure. It would be cool to get some of the guys or girls in the book to do like a full 90-minute masterclass with you. Like, okay, you read the chapter of the
we'll
book.
try that.
Now you're going to
Yeah.
be on this webinar and we're going to actually talk about trades, like how I'm trading, show some technicals. That would, I think, be really cool too, to like follow up and go a little bit deeper. So that might be something you could take
That's a good
too.
idea. I'll take it for
Yeah.
sure. Yeah.
Yeah, like I actually was just talking to somebody who runs a podcast, and he was like, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to get all my podcast guests together and do a webinar and have them each come on for 30 minutes and speak. So that's what made me think of that idea. I was like, get everybody together, run it like a masterclass, because then if they read the book, they'll love that. You know what I mean? People will show up for that for sure. Now, how do people get this book? Because I went on Amazon this morning and it says there's only 13 copies left. Are there going to be more on Amazon, or do we have to send them to a specific website to get them?
Yeah, it's currently on pre-order, so by the time it goes live, this is probably going to not be an issue. It's probably going to be all good and ready to go. It's in Barnes & Noble, it's on Amazon, it's on a few websites also. We have a website to put together too, so you can maybe send people that way. I think it's called proptradingbook.com. I'll give you the link so you can put it, and it's better way to find it.
So now, what's next, Etienne? 2025. What's next? More trading, more traveling, maybe a part 2 of the book. What else you got cooking in 2025?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely want to see how this book performs and what people take away from it. I think that's really cool to be able to share this in a different format than I'm used to. I've done a lot of YouTube and podcasts for a long time. Book is definitely a first for me. I want to see how people react to this, like what kind of value they get, and then see where I can take this next level. It'd be cool to maybe travel and do interviews in person with the guests for the book. Could be cool. We'll see. We'll figure it out.
That could be cool. Well, if you come to the States, me and Nick are not far from each other. He's in Atlanta and I'm in Florida. So we're close together. So we'll get together for sure. You don't make it to the States that often, right? You don't come over to
I've been there before. It's just a visa issue for my fiance now, but it's otherwise it's good. Yeah.
So now tell me, all right, we're getting off topic for the end here for a second. I'm thinking about coming to Asia for the first time. Never been. Where do I go? What do I need to see?
That's tough. I mean, Thailand is such a central place to Asia, so you can just hop in Bangkok, stay there a few days, and travel around. Like all the countries are within 3 hours from Bangkok from there, so it's kind of easy to see. Kind of the reason why I'm there also. It's easy to travel.
Yeah.
I would probably start there and then just kind of have a look at maybe Vietnam, Cambodia if you can. Cambodia's a bit more on the wild side, but still kind of pretty cool. And then it's just a couple of nice places there, definitely.
How about English speaking? Because I don't speak any other languages. Do they speak a lot of English? Like,
yeah. You should be fine. In most cities that are touristic, you'll probably be fine. Yeah.
Good advice. All right. So then either you're going to come to the States, we'll do something in person, or I'm coming to Asia and we're crossing paths in Bangkok. Bangkok. Yeah, that's the plan.
That's good.
So listeners, for today, we're going to keep it short and sweet. We want you guys to go grab this book. I'm chapter 12. We've got a bunch of great traders, probably a few that you know. We mentioned most of them here in the episode. Definitely grab the book. We'll make sure this is linked down below. Got to give a shout out to Kathy. Kathy crushed it. She always does. She's great. And shout out to you, Etienne. This is a huge win for you, buddy. Like, podcast, YouTube channel turned into a real book. Huge W. So congratulations to you, man. I'm super happy to be featured in this, super honored to be in it. And I'm looking forward to 2025 and seeing how many people buy the book and seeing what happens from here.
Yeah, appreciate it. We're excited for it. Definitely.
Absolutely. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for listening. Make sure you grab the book. We'll put a link down below. Etienne, Happy New Year, buddy. Have a great New Year. Hopefully I'll see you in 2025. Listeners, make sure you're subscribed. We'll see you guys in the next episode.